Hello, this Sunday we celebrate the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today, Jesus is being confronted by those whose hearts are against him, especially those of the disciples of the Pharisees and the Herodians, who are trying to corner him and trap him to see if he will say something and slip up in front of them. Now, who are the Herodians? The Herodians are followers of King Herod. They're like Jews that lean towards the Romans, and so they're kind of seen as traitors. Pharisees wouldn't have had anything to do with Herodians normally, but in this case, they both join up for a common cause, and that's trying to get Jesus between a rock and a hard place. The Pharisees normally wouldn't have produced a coin of the Roman emperor, and so they would have probably got that from the Herodians, because for a devout Jew, you shouldn't have anything with a graven image on it, and especially graven image of Caesar, who was considered a god among the Romans. So it's interesting, though, before we get into that, that the Pharisees don't go themselves; they send their disciples. They send their disciples to go and do the dirty work with the Herodians. But when Jesus sends his disciples, he sends them off to heal, to preach the truth of the gospel, and to cast out demons. And so there can be good disciples, and that's if you're following Jesus, following the path to life. And then there's bad disciples, those who follow the will of the world, the will of the enemy, those who lead away from Christ. And so we want to be disciple following Jesus, of course. And in looking at that in today's gospel, we see these disciples of the Pharisees and the Herodians are trying to get Jesus to either say something against the Romans, and then the Herodians will turn him in, or say something against the Jews, and then cause a rebellion. So either way, he's looked at. They think they got him. That he's either going to side with Caesar or that he's going to side against Caesar, and either way, they're going to get him. But what surprises them all and stuns them is when Jesus uses simple logic and says, "Here's a coin. Who's on it? Well, Caesar. Then it's Caesar's." He says, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." So he kind of undermines their whole idea of what they were trying to do, because God owns everything. Caesar may own that one coin, or all the coins that have his image on it, but God owns Caesar. God made Caesar, and the image of God is impressed upon all of us. St. Paul talks about how we are chosen by God, and all of us have been chosen from the beginning to be with God. And especially with baptism, we have that seal of baptism, that character of baptism that is placed on our souls. And that is the image of Christ on our souls. So the question we got to ask ourselves today, like, whose image do we have in our hearts? Like, that image of God from baptism is still there. Are we allowing that relationship with God? Are we allowing that image of God to get a little dirty? Are we letting it get pushed aside? Is it getting blurry because other things are in front of it? Whose image do we have? Because our hearts are made for an image, and they're made for God, but we can try to fill that space with other images, other things. And so whose image whose image do you bear? And then another question we can think about is, if we were to look at what is in our heart, what would we see? Like, what is most prominent in your heart? Hopefully, it's God, relationship with God. Coming up close should be relationship with our family and our friends, the relationships in our lives. But it can be unsettling when we realize that God may not be at the forefront of our lives. And we shouldn't, despair over that, but we should turn to him and say, "Lord, please come into my heart. Help me to be a reflection of you, so that whatever we do, however we act, how we interact with other people, we will be like Christ." And so let's invite our Lord today to come into our hearts, to clean our hearts, to purify our hearts, and to help us to give everything in our lives to Him, because all of it belongs to Him. He created everything. And so just to give it back to Him and ask Him to help us to live lives with Him in the center of our hearts, and to remember that His image is the image we want imprinted on our hearts. Have a great Sunday. God bless. Take care.